Finance Committee meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on claims from September 17th, 2018.
Claims this evening are $1,192,114.15. They include the October 1st bond payments in the amount of $808,797.51.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on regular operators licenses.
You're asked to recommend approval of 7 regular operator licenses for the period of September 18th, 2018 to June 30th, 2020 to Peter Elkin, Gordon Getz, Dustin Danielson, Trisha Drave, Jamie Pagels, Kayla Frankson, and Francis McClellan, contingent on payment of any outstanding debt owed to the city and successful completion of the background check.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion of possible action on 2019 to 2021 assessment contract with Bomar Appraisal.
We discussed this briefly at the last finance meeting. This is a proposal. It's obviously higher than it normally is because there'll be the revaluation, and it'll be a full reval where they won't necessarily be going in every house, but they will do outside of every house, and they'll do a lot more comparisons. So sometimes they'll do a valuation where they just go and they do neighborhoods. But this will be so that's why it's more than it normally is. And they're doing it over a 3-year. They're spreading the cost over 3 years instead of.
What year will it actually be done?
Probably 19 into 20.
Okay. And how does this compare to the last time that they did the full?
The last time they did a full reval was probably 2007 or 8. I don't have the amount because in 2012 we went with a different company.
Oh, okay.
And that we had some issues with that. So, but I mean, this is in line with the normal part of their thing, and it's just the reval that's the extra. So,
I move we approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on changes to Class A liquor license quotas.
That's my topic. I will defer to Catherine, but for full disclosure, I do work in the hospitality industry. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, the information is the same as I provided last meeting. I talked again with the Department of Alcohol and Tobacco Enforcement within the Department of Revenue. Their position is that a hotel can get a Class A license for sale of beer or wine or liquor in their convenience store. The license application would have to describe just the convenience store. And wherever they're storing it, they'd be subject to all the same rules and regulations as a regular Class A, except it's a little bit different because guest rooms are considered by the courts as off-premises, as someone's temporary abode. So the only place that within even though they're part of the building, on premise, they're considered off premise for purpose of Class A license, but there can be no consumption of alcohol in any of the public open spaces or the common areas of the hotel. It has to be for consumption in the individual guest rooms only. I also asked whether the municipality, the city, could adopt an ordinance under 125, which is the state statute governing alcohol beverages. A municipality is allowed to adopt further additional restrictions as long as they're not in conflict with state law, and that's the basis for example, the city's restricted quotas for Class A, there are no quotas for Class A under state law. The city has adopted a local quota for those licenses. We also, in our Class B beer, require that those be issued to restaurants or businesses that are fully, their main source of business is the serving of food. So I asked if the city could adopt, if it chose to, an ordinance that limited sales to registered guests only in the hotel. And at first they said they don't think so, but they would check further. And upon further checking, they said, we don't know of anything that would preclude that. So sometimes there's gray areas, but there's nothing, no case law or anything that says right now that that would be in a conflict with state law.
So if we opened up more Class A liquor licenses, we would have to, anyone could apply for them. So could we open up only a couple at a time and see how many applicants there are? Or do we have
You could
to?
manipulate that with your
Well, you can make whatever
quota.
quota you want.
So we could change our quota gradually
Yes,
and see what we got.
And
That's what we've done over the
Well,
years
that's what you did with the
Class
Class B. Because we used to have a restriction when I came, I think it was like 750 or 1,000. Then it went to 7, for the regular restaurant bar type licenses.
Catherine.
Then it went to 750 and then 500.
What you can't do is have a license, Class A, for hotels only.
Right.
Your Class A would have to be available for anyone who meets the criteria, any business. And I think, I'm not certain as we speak, I think the city has further restrictions on Class A issued to grocery stores and maybe just grocery stores, but other,
What about gas stations too?
I'm not certain offhand. But you would be opening it up for, any business that meets the criteria. So,
What would the criteria be?
well, meets the statutory criteria.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to do for hotels, for sale to registered guests only, that would have to be done by ordinance. For example, if you just increase the quota, then and someone applies without an ordinance restricting, have an ordinance restricting at least hotel Class A licenses to registered guests only, you'd have a problem.
So right now, though, we do have a restriction so that grocery stores and gas
Yeah.
station convenience stores are not allowed to sell alcohol. Is that
I
correct?
don't think that's what it is.
They have to be,
They-
it's my understanding, they have to be separated.
Yeah, they have
Oh.
to have.
Separate
and-
entrance for the area that's selling alcohol.
Right.
Okay, and then separate checkout and everything else.
I've got it right here, Catherine. It's
Oh, okay.
F, no Class retail liquor, or Class A retail liquor license, or any Class A fermented malt beverage shall be issued when the license operates other retail business open to the public, such as grocery store or gas station, unless the following requirements are met, and there are 4 of them. The licensed premises shall be separated room, bay, or enclosure with access limited to customers of legal drinking age. Licensed premises shall be restricted to the area of storage and area where the product is displayed for sale. Point of sale shall be on the licensed premises, which shall be separate from other checkout counters. During all hours the premises are open for sale, there shall be a license operated on licensed premises.
Yeah. So you would adopt an ordinance similar, these are examples of additional restrictions that the city can adopt. You would adopt, if you so chose to, that's up to you, for hotels, that it would be limited to registered guests only. You could do that.
That is
You
the
don't-
license, that is the ordinance I would like to see us move forward with.
And
That what?
how many additional licenses do you think we should start with?
3.
Okay, and see how many we,
Right, so if you were, well, for example, if you were to go to 2, because it's fraction thereof, so right now if you were to go to 2,000 instead of 2,500, you would add 1 more, and then when we hit 14,001, you would add a second one. So we would just have to manipulate the
by
numbers.
population.
By population.
Okay, what?
So
I'm
right
sorry.
now, the quota is 1 per 2,500 or a fraction thereof.
Oh,
So we
okay.
have 6, and the next time we'll get 1 is when we hit 15,001 population.
Oh, okay, so we would have to change,
Change
so
the
that's
number.
our ordinance.
Right,
Okay.
change that number.
That's not a state.
No,
the
states
state
are-
is
No
unlimited,
state
yes.
quota.
So we would have to, if you chose 3, we would have to figure out what number that is. So it'd be
Okay.
somewhere between 2,000 and, probably
Okay.
1,750, and we can do math here.
And it would
How many do we
depend
have
on
right now?
how quickly the
6.
population
Okay.
increases.
Yeah, so our new one is, we're at 13,800 right now, 13,870. So I'm thinking we'll probably go over 14,000 in 2019 in October. That's when the annual
Okay.
number comes out.
Okay.
So that would be 2, 3, 4.
What's the history behind the restriction on Class A for Hudson? Do we know
I
that?
think a lot of it was based on Minnesota and Wisconsin, and us being a border state had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, that
And
a
that's
lot
why
of
the-
people used to come over from Minnesota and,
And the restaurant is because they used to have beer bars here.
yeah.
When we were 18 in Minnesota, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's why they put the restaurant in, so that if you got a beer license, you weren't just a beer bar.
So now,
I think I was at Target in
It
Woodbury
was.
and I saw that
yeah.
they now
And
sell
then now Sunday
alcohol.
sales are allowable in Minnesota, so that
Yes.
kind of just,
If
So
you
we-
wanted, I'm sorry, if you wanted 3, you could do that with 17, for every 1,750.
Okay.
That would give you 9 total, and then the next one would be, still be at 15,001 for the 10th one.
Catherine, so it's state law that in a hotel, if you were to buy the alcohol in their store, you're prohibited from drinking in open spaces?
Well, you can't have public consumption of alcoholic beverages in public places without a license. And so those are, a hotel, they don't really
Enforce.
restrict people coming in to just registered guests. So it's considered a public place, except for the guest rooms where the guests get to allow whomever, they're in control of that space while they're
I guess I
registered
would challenge
guests.
you on that, because we don't allow people just to come in and just hang out. I don't
I think
know what
in
your suggestion-
general, well, public to the extent that anyone can walk in the lobby and,
If they're not a registered guest, they're typically asked to leave. It is private property.
well, it's definitely private. For example, you're going to visit someone or meet someone that you know who is staying at that hotel.
And you wait
No
for
one
them.
comes up to you and says, "Are you a registered guest?" Because if you're not a registered guest, you can't be in here.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Well,
I understand your somewhat of your logic, but that.
the
rules
idea
are-
is you'd be able to get around if you can just buy liquor in and then consume it on the premises, then you're really, that's more like a Class B
So what
type
prevents a
license.
guest to bring booze in and drinking in the public?
Because they're not, they're not supposed to allow drinking in public.
See,
It
that's-
can be done in their
I think
rooms.
That's my question, because I have not seen a hotel that prohibits you from bringing alcohol down into their common area if you have it in your room. You bring it from your room down to the common area, you go to, it happens with this, our
tournaments.
hotel guys saying, yep.
Hockey groups, everything.
And that happens all the time. But I get your point that if you buy it there and consume it there, it is now essentially a
Class
Class B.
B,
So
right.
how do you distinguish between those people that have brought their stuff in from the liquor store across the street and those people that have bought it in the store right there in the hotel?
Because it's for consumption in the guest
No,
rooms only.
my point is,
Is
how
it
do you make that
enforced?
how do you distinguish the who's who? And they can drink here, but if you just bought your beer here, you can't.
No, you don't, there's
Technically, she's saying no
no
one is supposed to be
consumption
drinking.
allowed in the public areas of the hotel.
So if I have a
So we have
permitted
to
license-
educate the hotels if they're getting a Class A license.
So if I had a permitted hotel with a liquor license, I sell it to them. When I fill out the liquor application, I can't put public area in as where that.
Not for
it
a
has
Class
to be-
A.
So why wouldn't we do Class B?
Because then what are you going,
That's like the Hudson House, where they have.
yeah, where they have a restaurant, well, for one, in our city, to get a Class B, you have, the principal business
Food.
has to be food service.
So why couldn't we not produce a different type of,
We can't produce
B.
types of licenses. That's one thing we cannot do.
How's that?
That's governed by state law.
okay, so how did you get a new license?
Well, you don't get a different type of license. The
How do we
only-
create something so a hotel doesn't have to jump through all these hoops? I mean, you did present us an option.
The Class A, where they're creating essentially a liquor store for sale in the package only, unopened,
Correct.
consumption away from the premises. The only place that's considered away from the premises in a hotel are the guest rooms, because they are considered the private space of the guests. It's like going to their temporary home.
So technically, whether you buy it there or you bring it in yourself, you're technically not supposed to go in the
Right.
breakfast area.
Right.
It happens, but you're technically not, by law, not supposed to
Not
do that.
technically, you're not supposed to do it.
And that's a state, and that's a state law?
Yes, and
Okay.
it
But it does
can be
happen.
enforced.
So have you looked at other hotels and how they've handled their sales or any?
Well, actually, no,
Cities,
I did put
municipalities?
it out, I haven't looked at hotels, I put it out on the city attorney's listserv, and the same issues came up. Well, aren't they getting around the Class B, if they allow it in their public space? And the answer is, again, no, they can't allow it in their public space.
Yeah, but they do.
Others have not. I think Eau Claire decided not to issue one simply because of these issues. They're gray because you're allowing consumption in the building, but you're calling it off premises because it's the guest room. So, I mean, municipalities have struggled with it. Others, I got something back from Milwaukee that just said, describe it as, the Class A premises as that convenience store, and you have to describe where it's going to be stored and make sure there's a way to lock it so it's not accessible after hours, and that it's for consumption in the guest rooms only. So,
Well, I guess that would be the license I would like to have crafted and put into our
well, the
ordinance.
license is it's available under state law. What we'd need to do is change the quota, and then the council can consider this additional regulation if they wanted to, restricting sale to registered guests only. So people aren't going to a hotel just to buy liquor.
And that is completely not the intent.
I don't think so. You mentioned that they want to just sell it for registered guests.
It's the
only.
business traveler that comes off and instead of wants to go driving somewhere.
But you could also condition it on putting up signs, in the hotel that it can't be consumed in the public areas.
And for the most part, we do. You do, in most hotels, especially the pool area. The pool area, I said.
All right, I opposed this a year or two ago. I still oppose it. And I oppose it for a couple reasons. Number one, I think we're opening a can of worms here with anybody can apply for a Class A license. And this is going to go beyond the hotels. It's going to get into the drugstores. It's going to get into the grocery stores. We're going to be debating this forever, probably. There's an enforcement issue here. We have the off-sale industry is a highly regulated industry. And we are about to enter into a realm where we would have a very difficult time for law enforcement to be able to go out and monitor and enforce this. We are now giving liquor licenses to people who have never had liquor licenses before. And we're going to have an enforcement issue where somebody's got to go in and monitor this. And that means our police officers, who right now enforce our liquor laws with our liquor stores for underage drinking and things like that, are going to have to enforce this in the hotels. Moreover, and I don't want to sound protectionist, but to some degree this is. And it's not a matter of protecting the liquor stores that we have here, but they have a particular business. That's all they do. That's all they do. And now we're allowing other businesses to enter into that industry and compete with them, and they can't sell food, they don't rent rooms out. Now, if you want to open up Class B liquor licenses for other off-sale establishments that are only liquor stores, that's fine. That's why I say it's not protectionist to some degree, because it's competition's fair game. But in this case, you're giving other businesses a competitive advantage. It's not their main business. It's not their only business. It's ancillary, and the liquor stores don't have that capability because they're so highly regulated. So I would not support this right now. And I guess, Chief, it's good to see you here. Do you have any comments on this?
Well,
I
it's duly
should
noted,
say-
but opinion of the chair needs to stay. I think you're wrong,
Well,
quite frankly.
restricting competition is not a valid
Right.
basis for setting quotas, and Class A licenses, regardless of whether a hotel or not, they have to comply with the liquor laws. They may need to educate themselves.
But we have an enforcement issue potentially.
Well,
Chief, any
That's everywhere.
comment?
Yeah, I do. I'm very concerned with the enforcement issue that brings. Not only are you making it very difficult to enforce the issue, but who's to say that just because you're a registered guest, who's to say that you can't just buy a bunch of alcohol and have a huge underage party in your hotel room? There's a lot of issues with having hotels in the business of selling alcohol, in my opinion.
Have you heard from other municipalities, police chiefs, about?
I haven't researched it
Okay.
at all. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Well, I know, I've seen it in the Madison area where the
It's
convenience
in a
stores
lot of
have had.
places where municipalities actually want to do that kind of thing and not be afraid to step outside of the box to move on and get along with the times and stuff. This is a ridiculous argument, and so is yours, quite frankly. I think that you might have been pressured by liquor store or other owners.
I beg your pardon?
I'm just
I beg your
suggesting.
pardon? Seriously?
I've got calls.
I haven't.
I know exactly what happens when this issue always comes up. The big boys that have always had the blocks, the 5 liquor stores, have always objected to any opening up of this kind of thing due to competition.
Like I said, if you wanted to put a proposal in here that would increase the number of liquor licenses for liquor stores only, I'd be more than happy to vote for that. I would support that. But no, I think this is wrong to be going out beyond that regulated industry and offering this up to anybody else.
Okay. So the movie theater, you're gonna protect that. You're gonna enforce that you were backing. That's outside of the normal realm.
That's a different license.
Doesn't matter. We
No,
still have to enforce
that's a completely
the
different.
issue.
No, it's like a restaurant having alcohol. It's a completely different license.
Still have to enforce it.
It's a completely
His
different
argument.
license.
It doesn't matter what type of A, B, C, you still have to enforce the license. You have to enforce the state laws. And you're saying we can't in hotels, but we can in a movie theater.
Well,
No sense.
any other questions for the chief?
I guess I'd like to ask you to reach out to the police chiefs in the municipalities that do allow it in the hotels and ask what problems they've encountered and whether they feel that it's really difficult to enforce or whether it's not really a problem.
I can reach out
Thank you.
statewide. Anything else?
I'd move to postpone this issue until our next meeting.
Okay, we got a motion to
Second
postpone.
it.
Well, we don't even have
not
to.
on the
It's not on the.
agenda. Right,
Yeah,
on the
it's not a
council
big deal. We can
agenda.
just do that, put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, anybody got any comments? Anything else for future agendas, Devin?
I would like to have finance together that first week of October. I know we have a meeting Monday night, but sometime during that week, whether it's during the day or I'm available Tuesday or Wednesday evening, to do the, whatever personnel requests come in. That's usually the first step, because then we can fill those numbers in with the rest of the budget.
The first week of October.
Yeah, so we have a meeting Monday night, so if you, during the day, it's, any day is fine, and then Monday night, I have a conflict is Thursday. So Tuesday or Wednesday night, so whatever, if you want to meet during the day, I'm guessing an hour-ish. That's up to you, just let me know, or Tuesday or Wednesday evening, whatever. Is there a preference?
Could we
I'm
do it leading
available
up?
Tuesday or Wednesday evening, also Wednesday afternoon.
Should we do like a 3:30 on Wednesday afternoon? Would that work?
That's the 3rd?
The 3rd? Or do you want to do it early, like at 3?
No, I'm thinking
This is
3:30. Yeah, 3:30 or 4 would probably work for me. How about 4 o'clock? Or was that,
4 o'clock on,
or, well, let's see. I could do 3:30.
you do 3:30 on the 3rd of October.
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay. So is there an evening that, well, that'll be we'll try that first, and then if Rich isn't available, do you want to do Wednesday evening then? With that, you don't know that either?
No, I don't.
Okay. How about,
I might have to be in mine
okay, all of that week, or,
after our meeting.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. The other option, if we, how about Monday the 8th? Are you back by then theoretically?
Yeah.
I mean, that, I think we'd still be okay, and then do that following week then for the rest of it. Monday the 8th?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
time?
Like, late afternoon, then the department heads are here, and
Okay,
so
Sounds good.
3 o'clock on the 8th?
3 o'clock?
Does that work?
okay.
Yeah.
3 o'clock on the 8th, then, and that'll be a meeting just to talk about whatever personnel requests, and if we don't get any personnel requests, we can just use that meeting then to talk about, I know we're getting some, but, okay. 10/8 at 3 p.m. All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Got a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.